Hello, it's Renata with Renata's Garden, and in today's seasonal episode of Unearth Horticulture, I am going to demonstrate how to create your very own holiday tablescape. The first and most important thing to think about when planning and designing a tablescape is space and the dimensions you have to work with. Not only do you have to think about how long your tables are to plan on how much materials you're going to need, you also need to think about the height of the design. You know, people are conversing during the holidays. A lot of family members are visiting and they want to catch up. So you don't want big, tall designs to block that conversation flow. You also need to think about what style of service that the food is being served in, whether that's family style, buffet style, or served in courses. If it is family style, incorporate the food as part of your tablescape, but definitely think about your design as less is more. You want to have room for all that delicious food. If it is being served buffet style or in courses, that means that you have more room on the table to work with. The next thing you want to think about when designing and planning your tablescape is your materials. How much are you going to need? Where are you going to get them from? And what elements are you going to incorporate? So let's take a look at that next. When working with a tablescape, it's important to communicate a clear theme in that tablescape. And that's going to help you determine what elements to include in the design. And this time of year, that is going to, of course, be holiday themed. And there are so many elements you can work with. I'm just going to show you a few that I've chosen for this design. The first one that adds just the perfect pop of color is holly berries. And holly berries are great. They come fresh, usually in the florist section. You can often get them at your local grocery store chain. Just keep an eye out for them, but they really add a fresh pop of color. Next here I have, as far as color goes, I have different citrus slices that my mom and I dried together. These are really great. Citrus is more of a winter fruit when they're in season, and so oftentimes they're thought about during the holidays, and they offer nice color, and they're a little bit different than the other things you see around this time of year. Next, I have these really cool paper whites, and they're in bulb forcing jars, and there's just water down in there, and then the bulb sets right in the top, the mouth of the vase, and then they grow, and eventually paper whites, they flower white. And so I'm going to incorporate those. You can also incorporate candles, but since this gathering is going to be hosted in the daytime, I thought it'd be more appropriate out in our sun porch to highlight plants. All right, the next element I have here is cinnamon sticks, and they smell so good, and they're really interesting, add interesting texture. And then I have a few deciduous branches that offer different colors. Deciduous meaning they don't have leaves right now this time of year. And this is a dogwood branch. And dogwood, they're really pretty. They don't grow very well around Kansas because they like acidic soils, but they have this nice red tone to their branch. And then I have this curly willow branch, and willows have that nice yellow new growth on them, and so that'll add both texture and color. And then of course the obvious I'm leaving out and leaving till the end is greenery. And there are so many types of greenery to choose from, and I have a mixture here of my favorites. First I have your typical juniper, and junipers have these nice blue berries on them that offer form and color. And these are shorter and they can be incorporated in. I have a couple of different types of firs here, and fir has to be my favorite evergreen. They're just they offer such interesting texture. Their branches are so unique. And very different from our typical Kansas eastern red cedar look. They're really quite beautiful. I love them. They come in these huge branches. So obviously you can't just smack this down in the center of the table and call it good. To add a little bit of design finesse, of course, we're going to cut these apart and incorporate them along the tablescape. And then last, to help really just fill in the gaps, I got just a garland of mixed cedar and fir, and it's like a 25 footer. So they can get kind of pricey when you buy them pre-made, but they're really nice to fill in and give you structure and something to work with. So that's what we have to work with. On a side note, if you are planning to have a clean floor when your company comes over, make sure you have the vacuum handy. Whenever you're working with tablescapes, floral design on this scale, especially with greenery that has needles, expect to have to vacuum when it is all done. Needles drop everywhere. I'm going to start off the design by laying down my base layer, which in this case is the filler garland, and that will help me get an idea of the shape and the space that I have to work with. The other thing you want to make sure is that you have a great pair of sharp pruners that can cut through wood. When designing with evergreens, they get pretty sticky and hard to cut through, so these are important. And also keeping them clean as you go and after you finish. Alright, as you can see, I have gotten the base layer down, the base garland. There will be someone seated at the end of this table, so I wanted to make sure and leave room for a place setting there. So now we can really get to work with all the fun parts. I'm going to start with some of my more unusual pieces of greenery. All right, next I'm gonna add some of these cool juniper berry branches. All right, next I'm going to go in with the holly berries. Now that I have incorporated the holly berries, I am going to use some of my deciduous branches. So as you can see, I have already incorporated a few things into the design, and I wanted to give you a more close-up look. I have added the greenery base, and then I added some of these pieces of fir and juniper in here, and the hollyberry I split into some pieces, and then I also incorporated a few of these long willow and dogwood twigs to give it a more earthy feel. And now I'm going to go through and add some more of the fun elements, the paper whites in particular, and the cinnamon sticks and the citrus. All right, just to give you a bird's eye view, close-up look of the design. You can see all the elements that I added, incorporated throughout, and then the dirty floor that I'm about to vacuum up. All the different deciduous twigs, the paper whites, the citrus, the holly berries, the cinnamon sticks throughout here, and really just the whole way across the room. It's a consistent design and it's ready for enjoyment. As you can see, I have completed my tablescape, and there is this consistent flow that stretches across both tables. I incorporated the same elements spaced throughout, and all of the different elements really add a detailed touch that makes it expresses you as a designer. And so I hope you have fun designing your own tablescape this season. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'm always here to answer. And until next time, I'm Renata with Renata's Garden, and you've been watching Unearth Horticulture.